Professor Kalthara had been teaching interstellar relations at the Galactic University for over 2 centuries, but she had never encountered a question quite like this one. The young Zephyrian student, her crystalline form flickering with confusion, had just asked something that stopped the entire lecture hall in stunned silence. "Humans avoid war out of mercy?" Student Valnara repeated, her voice carrying the incredulous tone that only the very young could manage. "Professor, surely that's incorrect." The lecture hall, filled with students from 47 different species, erupted in what the universal translator rendered as various forms of laughter, chittering, and harmonic vibrations. Even the usually stoic Karathi delegation allowed their crystalline forms to shimmer with amusement. Professor Kalthara raised one of her forearms for silence. "Velnara, what exactly do you find confusing about this concept?" The young student's form brightened with nervous energy. "Well, Professor, I've been reading the historical databases. Humans have been involved in, well, almost every major conflict in the galaxy since they joined the Galactic Council. How can they be avoiding war?" The amusement in the room shifted to something more attentive. Professor Kalthara's tentacles twitched, a sign that she was choosing her words very carefully. "Class," she said slowly, "I think we need to examine this question more thoroughly. Can anyone tell me about the last major war humans initiated?" The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Finally, a Meridian student raised a fin-like appendage. The Terra Proxima incident? But that was a response to the slave raids." "The Korthak suppression campaign?" offered another. "Though technically that was a humanitarian intervention." "The liberation of the outer colonies?" A third student's voice was uncertain. "But the colonists requested assistance." Professor Kalthara's expression grew more serious. "I see the problem. Velnara, you're absolutely correct to be confused. Let me pose a different question. How many wars have humans started for conquest, for resources, for territorial expansion?" The silence was absolute now. "Zero," she continued. "In the 3 centuries since first contact, humans have participated in over 200 military conflicts. They have never once initiated hostilities for personal gain." A Vorthak student's translator crackled to life. "But Professor, that makes no sense. Humans are clearly one of the most effective military species in the galaxy. Their tactical innovations, their willingness to sacrifice, their ability to adapt, why wouldn't they use these advantages for expansion?" Professor Kalthara pulled up a holographic display showing human military statistics. The numbers were staggering: casualty ratios, tactical victories, successful operations. But there was a pattern that became clear as the data scrolled past. "Notice something?" she asked. "Every single human military action has been either defensive, protective of allies, or liberational in nature. They intervene in genocides, respond to distress calls, protect the weak, but they never attack first. They never conquer. They never claim territory that isn't voluntarily given to them." Velnara's crystalline form had gone completely still. "But why? If they're so effective at warfare, why don't they use it for gain like every other species?" "Because," Professor Kalthara said quietly, "they understand something the rest of us don't. They know exactly what they're capable of." She pulled up another display, classified military analyses that few students had ever seen. The projections were terrifying. Computer models showing what would happen if humans ever decided to wage total war. Not for defense or liberation, but for conquest. "These are Galactic Defense Force estimates," she explained. "If humans ever chose to abandon their ethical constraints, the galaxy would fall within 50 years, maybe less." The lecture hall was dead silent. "Humans don't avoid war out of weakness," Professor Kalthara continued. They avoid aggressive war out of mercy. They know that if they ever stopped holding back, if they ever stopped caring about collateral damage or civilian casualties or the rights of their enemies, there would be nothing left to rule over. A Zerion student's voice was barely a whisper. You're saying they could conquer the galaxy? I'm saying they choose not to, every day. With every diplomatic solution they pursue, every peaceful negotiation they attempt, every time they show restraint in combat, they're choosing mercy over efficiency. Velnara's form had shifted to a deep blue, the Zephyrian equivalent of deep contemplation. So, when humans say war is hell, they're not describing something they fear, Professor Kalthara finished. They're describing something they refuse to unleash. The galaxy's greatest warriors are also its greatest pacifists, precisely because they understand the true cost of war. She looked around the lecture hall at the stunned faces of her students. Class dismissed. I suggest you all spend some time reconsidering what you thought you knew about human nature. As the students filed out in unusual silence, Velnara remained behind. Professor, she asked quietly, how do you sleep at night, knowing there's a species capable of galactic conquest that chooses not to pursue it? Professor Kalthara's smile was both sad and proud. Very well, actually, because that choice, that daily choice to show mercy when they could show power, that's exactly why the galaxy is still free.